Welcome to the Starting Over Podcast. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. Oh man, today's been interesting, and of course I'm recording at like late at night. I had my day off, and I had so many things I need to do, and I just said, forget it, I'm going to play card games. And I played Might and Magic Duel of Champions. I got into the Hearthstone beta, which I'm really happy about. But if I hadn't spent so much money on Might and Magic Duel of Champions, I would have said forget that game, and I would probably be playing Hearthstone. But I'm playing it, Might and Magic Duel of Champions, and now I got like enough cards to build most decks that I want to play, minus some things. But if anything, to sort of tell you the type of player I am, I've made decks where pretty much every turn my opponent's hero takes damage. And so it becomes really annoying for the other person because they can do all they want. I've just pretty much put a timer on the game. It's like, oh, you want to stall? Take damage. You want to stall some more? Take a damage. Wipe my field. I don't care. I have something that'll take some damage from you. So I like having the direct damage to my opponent's hero abilities. So yeah, that's been real fun. Been playing Ignatius and Belials, but that only matters to people that play. Anyway, sort of going on, do some housekeeping real quick before we get into the main topics today. I have done so many interviews for the Quarry. And I still have a couple more to go. So yeah, just oh man, it's sort of tough. But because of that, and I have a round table to do, to organize, I probably won't be writing the blog this week. And if I do, it'll be an interesting one. For into Christmas and New Year's, I don't know how the show's going to turn out. I don't know if I'm going to take that off or not. So you can, there should be something next week, but after that, I don't know until after the New Year if I'm going to still have some shows. Check up, on the normal Friday, see if something's there. But things get crazy in retail. Real crazy in retail. But I got Christmas off. So that's something. Also, I'm going to try, and I do note the word try, if I can get the day off, to go to the rock tournament in Tulsa. So if I can get to the super qualifier, that would be great. And it'd be hilarious if I won it. But I'm not gonna go any further than that, but I'm going to try to go there. So if anyone is able to go to Wizards Asylum in Tulsa, hey, let me know. It is January 11, 2014, and we could try to meet up, high five, do autographs, pictures, all that other good jazz. Yeah, that's it. So let's get into the show for today, and what we're going to do is, because of Silver Centurion freaking silliness of all the things with that, and if you don't know about Silver Centurion, pretty much you can manipulate it so that until the errata, which I hope is really soon, you're able to manipulate his attack and his damage through stat manipulation of Silver Centurion. At the same time, that would also imply that if you're able to lower Silver Centurion stats, that you would be able to also affect the missile as well. But that's I knew something dumb was going to happen the moment that they made the missile terrain. I just didn't think it was going to be that dumb. They're like, hey, look, guess what? Silver Centurion is technically doing the action, and oh yeah, buddy, since it's a free action to move it and it's free action to detonate, you get to use the free action to move it away from the character it would detonate on if you have that chance. So there's a lot of silliness going on with Silver Centurion, and it just goes back to what I've been saying before. You don't tear down the fence unless you first know why the fence was there in the first place. Really. So, oh man. All right. So let's get into today's topic, and today's topic, what we're going to start looking at is looking at theme, and how can we take advantage of theme in the current meta that we're in. And the main thing I'm looking at is theme keywords, not like, oh, hey, I'm comic accurate theme, because that's a whole different restriction in and of itself. And I think this is one of the bigger things that, in all honesty, we need to look at. And I know some of you might say, well, we sort of talked about this and new meta shifting with, just building teams and whatnot. But I really do think that looking at theme teams becomes interesting, mainly because the silliness of team bases is gone. So plus 18 to map is also gone. So it also puts a very solid advantage back into the person that's able to get, 4 or 5 characters in for a theme, if possible. So that is something to think about. So let's go through some of the fundamentals. First part that I want us to realize when building a theme team is we still need a goal, and we still need to plan out our victory, and we still need to pick our maps. I don't want us to think that just because we have a theme team that all of a sudden all's right in the world. Your team needs to be flexible, but your main goal, due to your restriction of options, is to say, hey, guess what, buddy? I got map. So you need to have 1 or 2 maps that solve for a couple of issues. Issue number 1, you have a map that is optimal for your team. It makes you able to run your offense and your defense, or your shenanigan, or whatever you're trying to do. Map number 2 is to hose everything that would hose you. That's pure and simple. Oh, I'm a stealth team, and that guy has a bunch of anti-stealth. I have a map with a lot of walls. So you just hose their range. So that's the big thing, is you need the, hey, I'm going to win on this map, and you're not going to win on this map. You need both of those, and you need to have both of those going into the tournament. And for multiple rounds, you need to be ready to pop out any of those maps, if you're going to win, and if you do win map. The worst thing for a theme team to have happen in the modern age right now is to lose map row. Like, if you lose map row, a good amount of your energy is sort of, gone, and has went to the 4 corners of the earth. So, getting map row and having your map ready is essential. The sort of, partially putting the cart before the horse, let's look at, your team dynamic. The first major team dynamic that you need to look at after you say, hey, how can I get map, is what is the core figure of the team? What figure are you building around? And the next thing you need to look at is this keyword fodder abusable? Let's go back to scientists in the age of Web of Spider-Man. Scientist keyword during the age of Web of Spider-Man was more broken than anything that George Massue did with Mystical, and George Massue pretty much hoarded out Mystical, and yeah, he pretty much hoarded out Mystical, and here is the reason why. Researchers were 15 points. The cheapest thing up until that point was Scarlet Witch at 35, and yeah, 35 points, and so Mystical was able to spam a bunch of Scarlet Witches and get prob and all this other stuff, and that was fine to an extent, but it made Mystical way too strong for the meta. Definitely when you had it so that Mystical characters could use their own prob plus theme prob. Then you had researchers come in, which is less than half of the point cost of a Scarlet Witch. And having 4 of them on a team was way more than broken, because you had +3 damage for ranged attacks with their enhancement, and then you add in the fact that you haven't spent that many points. In most cases, most people spent 45 points and they already at +3 to map. So that's a big issue, in game balance, and that's one of the reasons why most of the support pieces that we get in heroclix are really expensive, like 35 points and up, and you don't see too many characters with theme and keywords that are less than 30 points, just because of the pure fact, I hope they remember this lesson, that keyword spam is a common thing in heroclix. So you need to first look and see, is your keyword spammable, and is the spam useful? So if you put on like 15 cops, and those cops are, let's say, 25 points each, are they useful or are they just fodder? They need to have a role. If those cops have an effect that says, my brother's behind me, when a police cop dies, give every character with the police keyword for the next turn, +1 attack, +1 damage. Oh yeah, then they become real awesome real quick. Okay. And so you have to look at effects like that. Does this character provide a support power? Or does this character, when it dies or just it being on the map, does some effect that's useful? You go back and you look at Cypher, for example. Cypher was able to make a lot of fodder just broken. His keywords were not that good, but he was able to make a lot of fodder broken. So sort of cross apply. Do you have something that's able to be multiplied, or an effect that is multiplied by having that fodder? Okay. And then you also, last but not least, need to realize, what is the critical mass on that fodder? Okay, let's look at researchers again, because they are the biggest, brokenest example. If I have 5 researchers on my team, that is sort of okay. But if I only have 1 shooter on my team, having 5 researchers is pointless. I'm 2 researchers too many. Okay. So that's something for you to keep in mind, is, when do you hit that critical mass on your fodder? Okay. The next thing that you need to look at is, what type of character within your point range can you build your team around? For a generic keyword, your options are bigger, but you have to cram more figures into your point value. For a non-generic, you have less options, and you're just trying to figure out what's, goes best. But first, starting, out with that main character, you need to ask yourself this: in playing this character, what advantage do I get for having a theme team? And then the main characters that you need to look at are characters that say, like, hey, guess what? If you have X, Y, or Z keyword that I share, then I get to make you awesome. Or if you have X, Y, or Z keyword, I get to protect you. If you have X, Y, and Z keyword, I get to give you a special power. And those type of characters work best in theme teams. If you have a character that says, hey, if you have X, Y, or Z keyword, I hose you over, then yeah, there's a problem. So you have to watch that. The next element that you need to start looking at is, what type of offense can you run, and can you run that offense within the limitation of theme? There are characters that are great and run very strong meta offenses, but guess what? They don't run those meta offenses in theme 9 times out of 10, depending on the keyword, just for the pure fact that their major option that they need is not modern age, or better yet, is not within that keyword. So let's see. I can't use that one, because I was going to say like check out Oracle. But Oracle is mainly built around keywords. Anyway, I can't think of someone right now. Probably just because it's late. Anyway, sort of just moving on. Moving on. with the offense. Most offenses, you're looking at, your fundamentals. With a theme team, you're looking at, barrier stall, run and gun, rush, whatever it may be. You're trying to do most of your basic tactics. You're not trying to do something really too complex 9 times out of 10. So keep that in mind, that you're running a simple offense, and you're trying to do the best with the simple offense. Okay. The next thing that I want you to start thinking about for your theme team is when it all congeals together, what is your damage output? And sort of count down how much damage you can do in a turn. Like, actually look at if all your characters attacked, or that were capable of attacking, and they were at optimal peak, what is your max damage that you can do in a turn? And if you look at it and you're like, my max damage that I can do in a turn is pretty pathetic, then you might want to think about a different keyword or a different theme team. I would say your main goal is to take one character off the map per turn. And one character off the map per turn damage is 6 damage. So at 300 points, you need to be able to do 6 to 7 damage in a turn if all your characters attack. At 400 points, I would up it to 8. At 500 points, I would actually up it to 12. And you could sort of figure out, how it scales. And the main reason that I'm sort of scaling upward sort of quickly is that the higher you go up in points, the higher potential that you have of a couple things happening. Well, first off, you start getting the chance of more and more figures that are 8, 9, 10, and 11 clicks showing up. And if you're Bizarro, infinite clicks until weird scenarios happen. Then there is the other option of, hey, Colossals show up, and also figures with really long dials like team bases are more and more likely to show up the higher point value you get. So that's a big thing to think about is, all right, I'm at 500 points. Can I take on a team base? I'm at 500 points. I'm at 600 points. Can I take on Galactus? Because Galactus has potential showing up. And if you play me, there's a chance Tester can show up. I'm not going to lie. Tester's still awesome. He's not optimal as things were before, but he's still pretty strong. So that's something to think about, because you're not going to be able to take out Tester or a team base or Galactus in one turn. So you can't think like that. But you sure can light a fire under their foot. So those are things that you have to think about. How many characters can you get off the board? Now, I think one of the biggest frustrations most people have when they actually sit down and play their theme team in competition is, first off, knowing when to token to use that prob is paramount. And then the second thing is, most people don't run their offense like ahead of time if it's something that's completely new to them. So let's tackle the first one. Most folks don't know when to token their characters for their prob, because they don't keep track of their own probs, how many probs that they have. 9 times out of 10, they forget how many probs that they have or allowed. And then the idea of tactically pushing is a foreign concept to a lot of people. And that's unfortunate, because a lot of times when people look at the theme prob, even though they made a theme team, they're like, I really need that prob just in case. And then that just in case time comes, and they're like, oh man, I would have to token so-and-so, and that means the next turn I wouldn't be able to do this, that, and the other. Well, no, your whole complete offense depends on this moment right here. Don't worry about the next 3 turns, because you can't solve for that if you don't do this moment right here. So if you get to that point and you're like, man, I can't really know where my reality would be in the next 3 turns, then yeah, that's a tokenable moment. Also, you need to have characters that their main role is to sort of just take a token. I think that's a problem with a lot of people, is they don't have characters that will just sit there and know that they're there for theme prop. They don't do much. Their whole function is to stand there and do free actions and look pretty on the map and do theme prop when you need to. So that's a real key thing. And then it's just knowing when to put that token on and just taking that pushing damage. And taking that pushing damage is more than fine. And because when you take that pushing damage or just taking that token, your opponent might think, oh, he's taking that token, he's not going to push, I get to do this. And then you can push and do something. Or it's like, oh, he took that token, now he has 2 and he's not able to do anything else. And then, you just might have, pushed on the leadership. So thinking about that and keeping, those elements in mind is really essential for just dealing with the game in general. So I just want you all to just, keep that in the forefront of your mind. And then even when you're running your offense and you're really looking at your placement, just remember that your prob is based on your range now, and that's minimum 6. So I still catch people that are like, oh yeah, theme prob, and they're like 10 squares away, and I'm like, hold up, you can't do that. Your range would be 6. So just be mindful of that. And then also, there are some characters that have higher range, and you have to weigh how important is the moment by putting a token on one of your higher point characters, just so that they would have the prob range to actually, benefit whatever is going on. Okay, let's see. Dealt with the tokens. We dealt with all that. All right. The next element of dealing with the team is, while you're playing, is definitely the post game analysis, and then going back to the lab and fine tuning it. And I know I've gone in more depth in the past about that, but I'm just going to give some brief overview. First off, you should always have a heroclix notebook, and you should always have your team written down in that notebook. And at the end of each tournament, you should have comments, that you write down. And if possible, write down, how each round went. And then you start picking apart what's your biggest problem with the theme. And then I haven't started doing this yet myself, but I might actually start doing it if I deal with certain keywords more than I normally do. Is start, making like a short list, or even if you have to make another book that just says keyword status, and then just put next to it Golden Age, Silver Age, Modern Age, and whatever symbol that you want to have to represent, is this keyword good for it or not? Because in all honesty, WizKids is pretty blatant, is that, keywords rise and fall like colors in Magic. Like sometimes black is great, and sometimes green is great, and sometimes red is great. But, black's, rise to power won't signal that red is also rising to power, just signals that red might suck right now. So that's just something to think about, is, Monster is good in Golden Age, and in Modern Age sorta, but not for much longer, and it's all hinted. Yeah, it all hinges on Mole Man, but armor is on the come up. So you might want to say, like, hey, armor, really good in Golden Age, really good in Modern Age, Silver Age, it's pretty okay, and keep those elements coming, because WizKids, they really, really heavily favor one keyword over another after a while. And I think the next keyword to sort of get some love is going to be future. And I know a lot of people won't like that, but with Legion of Superheroes, it's going to be future. And you still have Sunboy and Brainiac 5 and a couple other good characters that are still out in the meta that are usable. So actually, I forgot about Brainiac 5. Him giving people powers. Dang it. Anyway, I gotta think on some stuff. What else? But yeah, make sure that you write your comments down, and then that you're able to figure out what actually is weak. And then this is where theme teams, I feel, are great learning experiences. You can start writing down like, hey, I didn't use theme prob that much. The only thing that this was useful for was to get me map. Or you can write down, man, theme prob is so essential to this deck operating the way it does. Or you can say like, hey, I noticed that these elements in my team is strong. I really needed X, Y, and Z for this figure. If I strip away theme, I think I'm able to do, A, B, C, D, G, but not H. Stuff like that. So I think that overall theme teams still have a place in operations, and I think that they still have a role in the game. I think that since team bases got nerfed pretty hard on how theme operates, they're good to help supplement a team, but they're not there to guarantee theme. So that's good. And I also think that Animal having so many cheap figures, spammable figures, is I think it's going to bite Animal in the butt. Because WizKids won't give them a powerhouse. But who knows? I've been wrong before. Hopefully I can find a good use for my Vixen. And that's Vixen from Streets of Gotham. Just letting you know. All right. Now I'm gonna expand today's conversation, since I'm pretty short on my conversation on themes, and I'm gonna look at primes and the way primes are actually shaping up in the meta and the implications and some money things. So if you're looking at some last minute Christmas gifts for yourself or for those in your heroclix community, sort of pay attention to this. First off, let's look at the money element of primes. I have to say, for the rarity that they show up in a brick in a case, I would have to say primes are a hustle. They really are. And here's why. Their increased rarity, and one of them inside of a brick and many times a case, negates the existence of any of the other primes existing in that brick or case. 9 times out of 10. Okay, so that's the first major problem, is that they're financially a hustle. They are Fox super rares and Fox chases put into a set. A prime super rare technically is a Fox chase, and that's FAUX. Or is just I think probably the proper way of saying the word is FAW. Anyway, going on, I'm gonna say Fox. Anyway, because I feel like it, and it's late. It's almost 1 a.m. So that when you understand that hustle, that's the first thing that needs to get you aware. The next thing is primes doesn't balance crap. They really don't. And then by saying, oh, look, this is on a prime, we gave them a really super, broke power, and only one character can really do that. It really doesn't, because of mind control and mind control of friendlies. I mean, just pure and simple, okay? The whole, guess what? I'm able to do invisible magic world every time I do mind control, per mind controller. That part of mind control should be fixed, because we are able to create multiple instances of things that should only take place at the beginning of the game. And let's take Silver Centurion, for example. Silver Centurion is supposed to be balanced, that you only can have one Silver Centurion on your team, and that automatically excludes Brother Voodoo, automatically excludes the Prime Catwoman and Sasha Bordeaux and a long list of other characters that have primes. Okay, Hyperion. Okay, so I'm picking this character and I'm locking out all these other characters because combining with them would be oh so broke. But in reality, there's standard characters that are way more broken than the primes, and there is only there's two primes outside of Silver Centurion right now that I would think, yeah, that's just a tad bit OP, just a tad. And one is Brother Voodoo, but actually I take that back. It's not Brother Voodoo because Brother Voodoo is balanced. That's what it is. Jubilee and Hyperion. That's it. Vampire Jubilee is a little bit OP because of her potential with hammers. And then Hyperion, you already know my thoughts on Hyperion, so I'm not even going to go repeat that again. So, by picking a prime, you've excluded out other primes, but it really doesn't stop that power for a prime that the prime has from being used 5, 6, 7, 8, even 10 times if you have the mind control. So that's the first major problem is that, Magic World of mind control can abuse prime. So they don't really balance the game. But they are there to suck your money away. You're supposed to spend more money trying to get these primes. Even the biggest factor that I dislike about primes is that it's not just the pure fact that they aren't powerful for being a prime. It's the fact that their rarity messes with other rarities of things, thus creating a fake inflated secondary market model that only benefits WizKids because, look, I'm going to go buy another brick and then I should have enough figures to get what I want. You never do. And that's why I really promote eBay. I really love eBay. And I would even tell you, unless you can cut a deal with the owner, eBay is the best place to go because the value of a booster has gone up, but the actual value per booster is down. Like, you pay for potential. And the overall potential of a booster is not even worth half of the cost of the booster most of the times. Like, if you look at it, for your average breakdown with a big long 5-figure booster, the average cost that you would spend for what you would get in that booster on eBay is $8. It's around $8, maybe $9. Let's do some quick math here. Let's do some quick math because Edward can't do simple math in his head anymore. He has to bring up the calculator. And this is what happens, kids, when you don't use certain elements of your brain and you dedicate your brain to focusing on other things. Something simple like basic algebra becomes difficult, and even basic division. so let's go ahead and hit that calculator up. All right, let's just say you get 2 commons in your pack. So, or even let's say a common and uncommon. So those are usually $1 each on eBay on average. So let's just say the uncommon is $1.50. So we're at $2.50. Okay, and so then let's say I get let's add in another common. Okay, so we're at $3.50. Then I'm going to add in a rare, and the average rare is costing about $5 on average. Okay, so that puts us at $8.50, and then at $8.50, that's 4 figures. We've gotten up to a rare. So let's say let's add in the average super rare, and I'll say the last price I saw for Iron Man and War Machine was $11. Okay, so that's $19. I have to pull a super rare for my booster to be worth more than $13 that I spent for it. Okay, so let's say I don't. So okay, actually let's say divided by 5. So the average cost if I get a super rare is $3.09. Okay, if I get a chase, sorry, not $3.09, $3.90. Sorry, $3.90. Okay, if I get a chase, the average chase right now is going for like $25. And then let's say I get a rare, so that's $5. And then I get an uncommon, 2 uncommons, so $3. And let's say I get a common. Okay, so that's $34 divided by 5. Now the average cost per figure in the booster is $6.80. Okay, so that's almost double from the start. Now, if you see that, like, look, if I had a crap or average pull, my average is around, close to $4. And then I go and I have to pull a super rare to actually bring up the average cost per figure in the booster. Then you start to see, like, oh, man, that's sort of messed up. Add in primes. If you adjust it, and then you say, all right, how much is an average prime going for? Let's say a common prime. Let's say you get unlucky or lucky, depending on how you feel, and you get an uncommon prime. Like Brother Voodoo, when he first came out, was like $8. Like I was ranting and raving, like these people are stupid and no one's buying this guy for what he's worth. But okay, let's say I got a Brother Voodoo, so that's $8 plus. Let's say 2 uncommons, so that's $3. Why keep typing 30? Okay, so I'm up to 3 figures, and then I get a common, and then let's say I'm lucky and I pull a rare, and the rare is $5. Okay, so I'm at $17 divided by 5. The average cost per figure is $3.4. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. If the average cost of my figure is $3.4 and you average that out from, all your bricks, then, throughout your whole brick and throughout your whole case, then you start seeing that, yeah, it's a sucker's, gamble. It's better for somebody else to buy a whole bunch of cases, open them up, and then you go buy the primes that you're going to pay for and buy a CUR. And drop down to $30 to $40 for a CUR instead of going out and buying blind. Now, go back. If an average CUR in a set is like $40, and then I'm gonna go look at. Let's see. Let's look at Invincible Iron Man. And more people have sent me messages on HC Realms. Okay, so the average CUR is $40, and then I look at I have 39 figures, okay, and that's up through my rares. I'm paying $1.10 per figure up to my super rares. Okay, that's about average. I'm paying about $1.10. Okay, so I got 39 figures, and like I said, I'm could be a bit over. Actually, I probably am over, but let's just say I'm being nice. I'm paying $1.10 per figure. That beats out greatly how much I would normally be paying for a rare. Okay, so once I start getting into the rares, I've made profits. I've made lots of profit. Okay, and then you can say, well, what about the super rares? Super rares in the last few sets is just hit or miss. And then you can say, with all that savings that you spent, because you haven't gotten up to $100, because that's what a brick is full retail. It's like $110. So you're sitting at 40. You have $60 to go spend on a super rares of your choice, and a chase of your choice, or no super rares and multiple chases, and you're still under budget. So, and again, this is also factoring that the average cost of a chase is between $25 to $30. That's pretty much how they've been. And then they usually go down in like a year. So anyway, so you can start to see that when you factor in primes, that primes, depending on their rarity, go down. Now, the only time that primes in and of themselves become beneficial to you from an economic standpoint is if you pull a super rare prime. That's it. The rest of the time, they're not worth as much. And with Vampire Jubilee as an example, people saw how strong she was. Vampires became a trend, and bam, you're spending a good amount of money. You're actually spending more on that prime than you are for some of the chases, which is hard to believe. Yeah, I mean, you could say, yeah, it's sort of hard to believe. Definitely Wolverine and X-Men. It had some good chases. Well, maybe not Wolverine and X-Men's chases, but definitely from Teen Titans. Yeah, because I forgot Phoenix 5. I don't have any, so anyway, going back. So the best thing I could tell you is, go ahead, look on eBay, look at your average price, that it's sold for, and then determine how much you're going to spend, and then go and get the prime that you want, because it's not worth buying boosters to get a prime. And I know where the hustle actually comes in when you're buying boosters is really the micro sets, because WizKids tries to make you buy as much product as a case to complete a set, which is freaking evil. And then I work at Target, and then splitting stuff between that's in the normal set that you can get on a countertop display at a normal store in Target, and then having stuff that's exclusive to Target, and then having stuff that's exclusive to a normal store is a bit BS. And the whole goal is for you to spend the same amount that you would spend if you bought a full, 60, 70 figure set. And we've seen it multiple times. Like Marvel and DC 10th was horrible for this. You had to buy, I think, 2 full displays and still not get all the chases. So, and that's 2 full displays of each Marvel and DC. Okay, so just think about that. Anyway, so you can already see that, like, primes, as much as WizKids wants to say, hey, they're balanced because there's only one, they're really not. As long as mind control is in the game and you're able to mind control your own figures, whether it's Tony Stark or Mole Man or, some other weird power that's going to come, or, heck, Compel, if your venue allows that. There's no balance to a prime as long as mind control exists. They would have to completely rework how mind control works and operates for primes to actually be balanced so that their game effects are very limited, which they're not. And then at the other end it's really just it's a malarkey excuse for WizKids to create a repaint. And yeah, it's just the equivalent of a repaint in the same form. And they're like, oh, here's some random things of him at this stage. And it's like, you could have just saved that and not messed up our correlation. But anyway, so that's my rant on primes and how to get them. Like I said, go to eBay. Don't waste your money trying to buy boosters. I've seen people go broke, literally go broke, trying to get figures from boosters, and it's just sad. Now, let me add an addendum, because I was about to wrap everything up. Let me add an addendum. I'm not anti-venue. I'm really not. And I don't think it's a bad idea if a venue will sell you a CUR. I've said it before. It is not your job to keep a venue in business. They have to do things to earn your money. You don't just, I don't go to work just to throw money at the venues I play at. I just don't. What I do is get my money and say, hey, you provide a service. What are you willing to do with, with your service so that I can give you my money? And then they say X, Y, or Z, and then I go and decide if I want X, Y, or Z. That's really it. And you can say, well, there's only one place in town. And it's like, well, okay, there's this thing called the internet. It's wonderful. You can play with people across the world. I've done it. I've played George Massue, and he beat me bad. So if I can play George Massue over Skype, you can play, your buddies. So there's a lot to be said. And then this is a addendum to on top of this. Well, let me finish the prime addendum. Talk with your store and then say, hey, I will do, Troll and Toad minus $1. I'll buy it from you. Troll and Toad minus $1. But if the price is $1, just be like 50 cents. Stuff like that. Then I think most venues are able to work with you. Most venues should be able to work with you. If they don't, then you have to decide how you're going to mitigate them. And you also have to realize this. With venues being told, oh, you can't sell prize support online and all this other stuff, I'm going to tell you the honest truth. That hasn't stopped many of them, because most of them don't sell their stuff under their actual business account. They'll just sell the stuff under a personal account, or they'll give it to somebody else and they'll sell it. Or you can just find people that don't want the prize and they'll sell it on eBay because they need to pay for something. So look at the the cost of things when it comes to the prizes and the primes and the chases and all that. And even if you look at all that, unless you need that one element like now to build a team, or you need that element so that you can build something for like a big tournament, the best thing I can tell you is just wait. Sit back and wait and watch. I can't tell you how many things I've gotten on eBay for a third of their price that they came out when they came out, just by waiting and saying, I don't need that now. I can wait. I don't need 15 of those now. I can wait. And just by waiting, over time you forget, and then you stumble back on it. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot I needed that. And then you go look it up and it's like, oh wow, it's dropped, by 15%. So waiting is essential. So anyway, I would say around this time of year, this is a good time to always look back a year and then try to get old chases. I would say, look to see which Batman chases you can get, even with the Green Lantern Batman. See if you can get him. And if you do snare him, tell me, what did he go for? Or any of the other Batman chases. I'm betting they dropped because most folks forgot about them. Anyway, all right, that's today's show. That's definitely today's show. It's late. I have done so much recording today. You can hit me up on Twitter at StartOverPod. That's at StartOverPod. It came from outer space, poured me a cup of water, rubbed my back, and said, it'll be okay, son. You're doing this for the love of the game. You can check out my musings, find out what's going on, and most importantly, you will find out when the show is gone live, and you can listen to it. You can also email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it intergalactic, brothers and sisters. Tell me, hey, what's your heroclix Christmas look like? I haven't gotten too many emails on that. Also, if you're going to a rock tournament, let me know which one. Just for my own sake, I'm not going to just throw that on the quarry. And last but not least, you can check out the blog startingoverpodcast at Gmail. Not starting. That's not right. Wow. startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. Gotta love the bloopers. Gotta love the late night outtakes. You'll hear my musings once in a while. It's not as frequent as it used to be. Just mainly there's some things being worked out, and I'm in the lab right now trying to figure out some things, and most of my lab work is inconclusive. So that's good to an extent, but also like nothing floats to the top yet, which, you know, hey, floats to the top isn't always a good thing. Sometimes it's the best metals, sometimes it's impurities, and sometimes it's a turd. Just saying. Or a dead body. Those float to the top as well. All right, guys, girls, ladies, and gentlemen, I really appreciate you all for listening. Have a good evening, good morning, good night, and remember, we all have to start over sometime, and we all need to go to bed.
I'm into comic books, figures on the wall. She's into looking good, Vicky C's catalog. And she loves my flaws, yeah, she's not ashamed. I'm a Peter Parker, she's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane. I'm a Peter Parker, she's my Mary Jane. I'm a big nerd around her, but she's cool around me. Never knew how she found me. Electric, but she grounds me. And she loves my flaws, she accepts them all. When the darkness comes, I will get the call. I will swing down the city.